All right. Political hope. Oh my gosh, we're back and we're with Aura Vasquez. And wow, like we can go into like a whole spiel, all this stuff. And you guys have already heard what I've already talked about, Aura. So now, how about Aura? We get your perspective. We'll just jump right into it. How did you get here? Like, how did you get to this place that you're at right now? In many different ways and shapes and forms, and but
Yeah.
from your mouth.
So, a lot of us get political through our families. And that was specifically my story. I was born in a family where we were very involved in our community, very involved in making sure that everybody was counted and everybody was heard. I grew up in a very small town outside of Cali in Colombia, and we all knew each other. So I had a huge sense of community from very young age. My neighbors were like my parents. If I misbehaved, they scolded me. They treated me like their own. So it was a real sense of like it takes a village. And my parents work on things like getting books for kids that didn't have books. They work hard to bring clean, water to our town,
Wow.
to make sure that we had all the things that we needed. And especially for us, I have two brothers and myself. I'm the middle child
Oh, you're
for
the middle
anybody
child.
that
Oh my
believes in those
gosh.
things.
So
And
diplomatic, so diplomatic.
I'm the only girl. I'm the only girl and the middle child. So I grew up watching my mom making, cooking empanadas with her girlfriends to raise funds so that we could do these things for our, community. So I grew up with that, like very sense of belonging and also of giving back. That was present very early on. But my very first action was ozone layer. And the hole in the ozone layer. And this in the 80s. I was born in the 70s, just so you all know.
What? No way. You look like you're like 20 something years old. You're part of Gen Z, I thought.
No, no, no. I was born in the late 70s. So
Whoa.
I saw a show about the ozone layer, and this was the beginning of really the conversation around global warming, like in those days. So I just grew really alarmed about, the ozone layer and global warming. So I went to school. I asked to talk to my principal. And, in a school, they asked me, like, what do you want to talk to the principal about? And I said, I want to talk to her about global warming. And they thought it was funny. This wasn't a topic that was very popular or
Wait, how old
very,
how old were you? How old were you?
I was 11 years old,
Wow.
talking about global warming. And I make it to my principal's office and I explained to her that I seen the show that, in the show, they talked about seawater rising. They talked about dramatic immigration from people to other places because we were going to have places where we were not going to be able to live,
Right.
and trees, and it just really showed the destruction of our planet. And as someone that grew up around trees and going to swimming in rivers, that for me was like touching home. So I spoke to my principal. I explained to her what happened in the show, and I said to her, what are we doing to fight global warming here, and she posted this question, and I always talk about this moment because it was such a life-changing moment for me. She said to me, well, what are you going to do about it? Like a good teacher, right?
That was very good.
and I said, and I said to her, well, in the show they talked about the aerosols, and
Mhm,
back in the 80s,
mhm,
the belief was that the gas released by the aerosols was causing
mhm.
the ozone layer, the hole in the ozone layer. And back in the 80s, there was the big hair and the curls. And if you could see me right now, you see that I have big curls, so I can totally relate to the aerosol story. And I said to her, well, maybe we can ban aerosols in the school, and then we can ban aerosols in our town so that maybe we can stop global warming. And that was like the first ever action that I took, as an
Wow.
organizer, as an activist, as a child.
Wow, you're
Yeah.
and you're 11. So that wait, did that come from some place? Like, did were your parents kind of like that? Were they civically active, or was it how did that happen?
Yes, they were very civically involved. They were very altruistic, very civically involved. They really believe in democracy. I come from a very democratic family. They really believe that we needed to fight corruption, as in so many other foreign countries. We see, I'm from Colombia, and we really see the struggles of corruption in our political process. So they always spoke against that, and they were always about bringing resources and bringing opportunities for our neighbors and our broader community to get involved and to do something for themselves.
Well, I mean, the question on that one is like, how, like, weren't they scared? I mean, I feel like there's always this weird thing, right? If there's corruption, whatever, people are scared to do something about it because that means they might lose their place in line. They might lose whatever they have. Like, were your parents scared, or how did they approach that?
Yeah, and in Colombia, especially back in the 80s with the war on drugs and the narcos, and the cartels, it was really scary. It was definitely really scary. But we had such a big sense of community.
Mm.
We all knew each other, we all worked together. We were like a big extended family with neighbors and friends. And I think that that's what gave my dad, my mom, and his friends that organized together the strength to continue. They um they believed that they could bring something better, and feel fearless,
Sure.
literally fearless about what could the repercussions be, and how do you work with the local government, the city council members and the mayor, and how did you show them sometimes the way.
Mm.
In the United States, we rely so much on our government because we pay really high taxes,
Yeah.
and that's only fair. But we also have a personal responsibility to step up and to get involved and to sometimes show the way.
Sure. Sure. And that's interesting that you brought that up because I think like I want to shift the conversation. We could like talk a lot about what you've done and everything, and I'll share about more about that. But I really want to dive into this idea of political hope, right? Because I feel there's a lot of hopelessness right
Hmm.
now. What I notice when I talk to people, even young people
Hmm.
especially, right? There's like a hopelessness. I mean, as far as I don't know if you know, Auda, but the rates of suicides are going up. Like there's in the hospitals, more and more people, right? More and more addiction, substance abuse, and it can't be there's impossible that it's not connected to our politics, right? Like hopelessness is when your leaders, you don't have faith in the people who are leading you, you don't have faith in your community, you don't have faith that things will work out, right? So even young people are so worried. So
Yeah.
what do you like, I want to dive into that, really, that uncomfortability, right, real quick. Like, what is the despair there? Like, Auda, what in your perspective, what is going on? What is the hopelessness? What's bumming you out in this space right now?
Hmm. So I think you're touching a couple of different things. Especially in the United States, we have glorified individualistic mentality. We live in a society where not in my backyard, not don't get involved. Sometimes you see things on the street, like you can maybe see fights among couples or something that is getting too heated, and people don't get involved. I have gotten involved in arguments where I have seen men being violent against women, and I'm the person that is like gets involved and like, hey, slow down, like take a deep breath, like it doesn't need to be this way.
Yeah.
And everybody else is just standing there watching,
Yeah.
and we have created an ecosystem in the United States where it's like it's me, myself, and I, and that's very dangerous at an
Mhm.
individual way. We don't know how to reach out. We don't know how to ask for help.
Mhm.
We don't know how to deal with our emotions. The rates of drug addiction, functional drug addiction,
Mhm.
people that have drug addictions that go to work every day and have wives and kids and have a life and they're drug addicts is booming.
Booming.
Depression, where people cannot leave any day. And I'm not discrediting that there are people that have real
Sure.
clinical issues,
Sure.
but there are also other people that if they had better tools And if we live in a society where, talking about our feelings was a little more accepted, and saying I'm not okay,
Okay.
is
Yeah.
accepted, things will be different. So I think that is starting from that point of we ourselves are not in touch with ourselves,
True.
with our, with our most intimate fears and our most intimate joy, is also creating. And I believe that we what's happening around us is a reflection of who we are.
Right.
So if we take, for example,
Right.
getting Trump elected, for a lot of us was really hard
Mhm.
because we say he's nothing like me. I am, oh my God, never. But there's a little Trump inside all of us.
Yeah. Wait,
There
what? Get
is
out of me. Oh my
ideals.
God,
It
you're
is.
mine. Chop, get out of here.
Get him out. Get him out. But again, we even see this behavior in the way that we design cities.
Right.
Our cities are not designed in a sustainable way where we can
Right.
coexist with our nature and ecology. We glorify having taller trees, taller buildings than taller trees.
Right.
We invest in destroying the nature that can help us sequester CO2 and clean our air, for example.
Right.
So this is why we have also an economic system that is based on exploitation. The more produce, the better
Hmm.
you
Hmm.
are, the more medals you're gonna get, the more high fives you're gonna get, the more races you're gonna have, and that's very unhealthy.
Yeah.
I mean, you see lawyers, you see doctors sleeping 3 hours a day, and you get to a point where all that bottles up. But how that relates to our political hope? So if we choosing elected officials, and if we choose a political system that is governing all of us, and that political system is based on us not being unhealthy, and not being in touch with ourselves, so we have the perfect recipe to be very unhappy and very hopeless.
Yeah, it's funny that you say that. It's like if we ourselves are not, like they say, tend your own garden, right? Like if our own garden is not in order, like if we don't feel good in our own body, if we don't feel good in our own home, then like how are we going to even be able to decide if somebody else has a good home and takes care of their garden and takes like so we can't even perceive another person being diseased because we are in a place of dis-ease. But that kind of like let's flip it on the other side then. Outa, like
Absolutely.
what is like how do we like seed political hope? Like and I think maybe more specifically, how are you doing it right now? Like what are your things that you're doing right now that is planting the seeds for political hope?
Yeah, so I deeply believe in relational organizing, or being in relationship with myself and with others. So building community is very important to me, and that's like the only way that I can get it through. And we see big wins. I have fought the fossil fuel industry, where I have helped retire coal plants that are polluting indigenous communities in the United States, the Navajo Nation, for example. Um, and also you see small wins where somebody raised their hand and said this isn't okay in my neighborhood.
Yeah.
And all of these are wins.
Yeah.
And yes, sometimes we get frustrated and everything else, and sometimes we get upset, and we want to change, because as how I'm bringing about change. We gotta get attuned with getting involved,
Yes.
and not just in November, not just in the primaries, not just when somebody, particularly for me, like Trump, is in power and we need somebody better, but all the times. Because, for example, in Los Angeles, we're dealing with a huge issue of people not having homes to
Mhm.
live in and
Mhm.
sleeping on our streets. Our unhoused neighbors need us more than ever.
Yes.
And this is not going to be our government that is going to fix it. It's
No.
going to take all of us to
No.
figure out how to bring
That
bring change.
That's actually funny you say that. In my own personal research and understanding our democratic system in America, it more and more seems obvious to me that like the founding fathers like specifically made a point to make it a republic more than it is like some like top down thing. Actually, the states and the cities have more power than the federal government. But we constantly are in this news cycle, right? Where we're like all focused on like the drama happening at the top, but like actually all our power is at the local level. We can actually like stop things, initiate things, start
Yeah,
projects in our cities like this like overnight, right? I think you've done it. So what's that? Wait,
yeah,
wait, by the
absolutely. And
go ahead, go ahead, go ahead, go
go ahead.
ahead. I know I was
I
gonna
was just gonna say that sometimes you start with you start with two people, and that's all it takes. Sometimes I I people tend to believe that change comes about when we have 1,000 people and we have, there's a rally and everybody came out, and that's an exciting moment when we all get together and project our power that way.
right, right.
But you know what? We're all powerful. We're all
Yes.
powerful beyond measure.
Yes.
And when two of us or three of us come together, it's mighty. Is
Yes.
as powerful as when 1,000 of us come together. So don't ever underestimate the power of you meeting with your neighbor and say, this isn't okay that we don't have trees here. This is not okay that we don't have a healthy food store in our neighborhood, and we have to travel miles away to get to fresh food or organic food. This
Sure.
should be here. So
Sure.
don't ever underestimate that, because it's as powerful as anything else in a large scale that you see.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, I think you said it right there too. I think we as citizens aren't not even knowledgeable about that. Like, I mean, I took American government in high school, and I didn't learn that like I can initiate bills, I can create proposals with
Mhm.
my fellow citizens. I didn't even learn how that's even done, right? Yet that's something we can all do. We actually can start a proposal or start a bill and work with lawyers and work with stakeholders to get it passed in our cities. Like, hey, by the way, do you want to make a universal basic income? Do it for your city. You don't need to wait for the federal government to do it. Like, get it going
Yeah.
in your city. Get Amazon to pay for it. Get like if you're worried about money, there's a lot of
Yeah.
money there.
Yeah. That's
Comcast.
absolutely. And that's the very reason why I ran for city council last year. And I know last year was 3 days ago, but I ran for city council because I really believe that the elected officials that were running my district were not delivering. They were not doing things that basic things like address our homelessness issues, climate change, which is so important. Be creative about how we tackle climate change, which is something that I have been working on since I was a child. Things like better public transit, more trees. Can
Yes.
we have more trees? I feel like this is an issue, a bipartisan issue that anybody can get behind. Can
Yeah.
we get more trees that can provide shade, that can
Yep.
clean our air, and that can also make our communities safer and more beautiful, more appealing, and especially in places where there's not a lot of resources, like in low income
Right.
areas, people of color, people that look like us,
Right. Right.
often lives in places where it's hard. And for me, that I'm a renter, a
Right.
huge piece was, can we live in a city where I can afford to live
Right.
here without sacrificing paying for healthcare
Right.
or my pension, or even saving for the future? So all those things are so important. And like you said, you can do that right now. You don't need to be an elected official. You don't need to be a PhD.
Nope.
You don't need to be even older, or you don't need to be able to vote to do all
No.
these things.
No, and there's something interesting in what you're saying too, because I feel young people we don't recognize. I mean, I'm gonna say I'm young, okay, Auda, but we're in the same bracket. But young people who are energetic and have a lot of vigor, right? They have the resiliency to stick around. That's why they can stay up at till 1, 2 in the morning, right? That same energy can be put to like making a bill that'll pay for better education, or maybe jobs for like yoga teachers or meditation teachers to teach the police officers. I mean, we can create those opportunities for each other by actually showing up and being creative and being policy. Like, wait, I think like Auda, like policy, like what is how is policy involved in this whole thing?
Absolutely. And I have a lot of neighbors that they're like, "Oh, I hate politics. I'm so tired. It's so divisive. I don't know. Please keep it away." And I'm sad to let everyone, all the listeners know that it's nothing that we do that is not political. From the toothpaste that we use in the morning, or even the water that we drink, to the pillows that we sleep on,
Yep.
to the cars that we buy, everything
Yep.
has something to do with politics. So this is why it's so important that you register to vote, you get involved, and that you try to participate and do beyond that you what you think you can, to make sure that your community has what they need.
Yeah, and when we do when we talk about politics, I think we got to like kind of break that down and like dissolve it. I think it's become such a polarizing word, right? But politics is just how we decide about the resources that are around us. Like that's where do the resources go? What happens to
Hmm.
them? And there's human resources, right? Our energy, our time.
Yeah.
That's a resource too. Like where you what you watch, what you talk about, how you spend your time in community. Okay, so on that sense, what like Auda, what gives you hope? Like what gives you hope? I guess that's a broad question, but answer it however you want. Like what gives you hope?
I had trouble hearing your
Oh, did we
question.
cut out? I was
Yeah.
asking what gives you hope?
What gives me hope? Nature really gives me hope. I'm a big nature person. I'm a big hiker, road trips. I'm in the rivers. I'm cleaning the beach. I'm all that. I'm that person. And just seeing the resilience of nature. I mean, you see in California how many fires every year we have, devastating fires that takes people's homes, that take lives.
Mhm, mhm,
And when you go back to these places where there's been fires, you see so much life
mhm,
returning,
mhm,
building, thriving.
mhm,
So nature is definitely a reminder for me to keep going and to keep trying. That sometimes,
mhm.
even when everything burns down, you can still go. People give me hope. People give me hope. You never know. Like, I work, and part of my organizing has a lot to do with leadership development, developing people that can become leaders in the community. And like I said, I see some people that are so shy, and I see them little by little blossom, and later they become, the spoke people from the group,
Nice.
or they like stand up, organize their friends, bring them together, and that's just incredible. That is something that is, you know priceless. I'll say is something so valuable, and that definitely gives me hope. It gives me hope in the political process, and it just gives me hope in general.
Shem, people continue to show us, and myself included, like, wow, we are capable of so much amazing stuff, right? And especially when we work together. I don't like that word. Especially when we play together, we can do some
Uh-huh.
amazing stuff. And actually, that kind of brings me to a funny thing. Like, I was kind of reviewing and like doing some research on you, Ada, and like watching videos and like looking into your past, and like I came across your the when you were inaugurated at the LA City Hall, right? For the position. Do you remember that? Do you remember when you were like when they do you remember
Mm-hmm.
when they like
Mm-hmm.
honored you at the City Hall? So I was
Yeah, when
watching.
I became a commissioner for.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So that was both so cute and like crazy. Like it was cute, like to like that, like we saw the process and like that's okay, they're honoring you and everything. But then there are people who are angry in the community who are like their needs are not being met for whatever reason. And like I was like amazed, like even you, like how did you feel? Because some of them like attacked you and like they were like
Mm-hmm.
very rude. And how do you deal with that in that space, right? Where people are there might not even be it's not you maybe or whatever. What do you think? Like what's going on there?
So that day was the day that I got like appointed as a commissioner for the Department of Water and Power.
Mhm.
So LADWP is the largest public utility in the world. And I became the youngest and the first activist to ever be appointed to this position. So for a lot of us in the movement, this was very exciting, very exciting. And for me, I had a plan. I'm like, we're gonna get LA to 100% renewables. We're gonna do everything we can to make sure that people have power, literally power back in their hands. And like I said, there was a lot of excitement, but there were also people there that that attacked my immigrant status, that question if I was and with anti-immigrant remarks.
Mhm.
And that was my first taste to being a person that had decision making power. That was my first taste. I remember
Wow.
sitting there and thinking, wow, so these people do this every day.
Yeah.
I'm here to I'm already getting roasted, basically, So it also brought a lot of compassion to my heart for them. Seriously, even for the elected officials that I think they suck and they're the worst, I also have compassion for them because leading is not easy and you cannot always make everybody happy, and that's another reality. And it became very clear for me that day that I needed to serve people, and sometimes it wasn't even like my own ideas.
Mhm.
It was really what the community wanted, and I was placed there to make sure that was a voice that was relevant, and that people felt that I brought their ideas and I brought their needs first before even what I thought was right for me. So definitely it's an experience. You cannot make everyone happy, and you can let other people define who you are because of their opinion.
Sure.
So I knew then, that yes, I was that little girl that came from Colombia with her family looking for a better future, just like a lot of other immigrants, that was an undocumented student, that worked hard to do all the things that she did to better herself and to also give back to my community. And yet I was being attacked for that,
Yep.
So like I said, you get to a point, or the way that I felt about the situation is that there's a lot of people with unprocessed trauma out there
Mhm.
and trying to find spaces where they can also be heard.
Mhm.
And they also want the best for their families, and
Yes.
they believe that, and they also operate from a place of scarcity,
Mhm.
because when you operate from a place of abundance, you know that there is plenty for everybody. There are
Sure.
jobs, there are food, there are, and we do. I mean, we are the most wasteful nation in the world. We could feed a bunch of other
Sure.
nations with all of the food that we waste every day that we don't consume. That's just one thing,
Yep.
so if that, again, there is like a misalignment of values,
Yep.
but also understanding that these people also want the best for their families and the
Yes.
best for them, and that they're there to also express their voice, and that's just fair.
Yeah, I think that's important for you to share that like, hey, like that's what a lot of leaders and elected people deal with. They're dealing with a lot coming at them, and it's because people within their own spaces are suffering, right? Or they're like dealing with like scarcity, or they're dealing with confusion, or whatever it is, fear. I mean, now look how much anxiety people must have. We're in a pandemic.
Hmm.
What's going to happen? When is this going to end? Will it ever end? That's even a question, right? People have. So, so
Yeah.
my drop in that is, I'm really glad you're involved in environment, right? I think that's a really important overarching. I am in the space of thinking it's bipartisan, right? Because it's like what we get water from, and our waste and everything is all energy, everything's involved in that. But like, where do you see, like, if the best things line up in the next like 5 to 10 years, right? What would be the best? Like, where do you see yourself, and where do you see us as a community coming together, with your vision and our visions? Like, what's the best that we could do?
Yeah, specifically with COVID-19, the silver lining that I see And, you know, just speaking about my personal experience, because a lot of people don't have the privilege to do this, is that it has given us time to be with ourselves, whether we liked it or not. You know, we have been forced to stay home and to deal with our home, in our space, in ourselves. So some of us have taken advantage of that and have dealt with us and have dealt with personal pain, trauma, and personal things that we needed to let go, forgiveness,
Mhm.
you know, all these things that sometimes we don't value very much, but they're so important for our mental and physical health, you
Right.
know. And the way that I see this is that we have the pandemic have highlight the fact that we don't have a healthcare system that is good,
Right. Oh no. Wait, hold on.
that is really important. The other thing that this pandemic, okay,
Okay, go
did I
again.
lose you again?
No, we're back.
Okay, let me take it from the top.
Yes. Yes, please.
So let me take it from the top. So you know, with COVID-19, what COVID-19 has highlight is the fact that we have a dilapidated healthcare system that doesn't work,
Mm-mm.
that doesn't work at the scale we need, that you know, we don't have enough hospitals that can hold all of us for a disaster. You know, in California, you know, we're in the San Andreas Fault. Anything can happen at any minute. We're not prepared for that.
Mm-mm.
We have tons of people that are still uninsured, that don't have health insurance. And this is like our most fundamental right that we need. So we need to definitely address that. We need single payer. We need people able to adopt and to hold a good health insurance so that they can be healthy, and that is not going to send them broke, or they're not going to be able to pay rent because they need to pay for their insurance. So that's number two. Number three is that the way that we have been living our lives is unsustainable. You know, this pandemic has shown that some of us can definitely work from home, and that is okay, and that we can be productive, and that we're not going to be watching Netflix all day, but we actually going to be doing what we
Yeah.
need to be doing, you know. So definitely.
Yeah.
And I think it has also highlight the importance of having a healthy environment.
Right.
So how we have a reliable source of energy, healthy health, you know, clean water, things that are going to places where we can go in nature. How interesting that now we cannot be in enclosed places, but we have to be in the open if we want to see people, right? We need to wear our masks and we can observe, you know,
Right.
distance. And how important nature, the beach,
Yep.
hiking trails, parks
Yep.
has become to us. It has become notorious
Mm-hmm.
that we need that's something that is that, you know, that is key. So I really hope that we as a society and as individuals get address issues and get more involved to make sure that we can move forward 2021 and on post pandemic in a
Sure.
way that is just more sustainable for all of us.
Sure. It's funny. It's funny we're talking about this, and right now at this moment, the largest peaceful protest ever in human history is happening in India, and farmers all across the country are congregating at at the capital of India, demanding that three laws that were passed during the quarantine, like when people weren't even like able to fight against them. These laws were actually passed that basically did what we already have in America, right? With our like agriculture
Mhm.
business, our like, you know, how everything is corporatized. It's we grow unsustainably. You know, we forest water in places where there's like no water. We do all kinds of really bad agriculture practices in America, right? Along with the pesticides and cancer causing
Mhm.
cancer,
GMOs.
immune system disrupting, chronic disease creating GMOs and pesticides and everything. But mind you,
Yeah.
that's not related to the pesticide. I mean, to the pandemic, of course, right? Like, don't worry about your food health. But in India, they're fighting this, right? There's a huge protest happening. And like what I'm noticing in India is the protest itself is starting to create sustainable community. So people are like, they're like, the farmers, like, we do
Mm-hmm.
not want our land. Cause like, the thing is like, the thing is out of the farmers here in America, they've only been around for a couple of generations. The ones in India, they've been around for hundreds of years. We're talking about like 20 generations, 30 generations. So they're not about to give up their land that easily, right? They're like, we know our land. We're not going to like monoculture this stuff, right? Monocrop this stuff. So they're fighting back. But as they're fighting back, their fight is peaceful, civil disobedience, and they're showing up. And
Mm-hmm.
what's happening is the food is all being provided. They have food for 6 months. It's all donated. So they're creating a community around food and celebrating civil disobedience. So they've been singing songs, they've been dancing, they've been telling stories to each other about the stories of how people have fought tyrants or oppressive forces. And like it's pretty amazing how their peaceful protest is creating a almost a temporary nation, right, of people supporting each other, like actually
Mm-hmm.
getting what they needed. And mind you, out of the, we're talking about 250 million people are congregating in India right now. Okay, no, there haven't been any outbreaks of the coronavirus. So like, what's going on with that? Like, why? How could 250 pretty not all healthy Indians showing up and a there's not a like an outbreak of COVID-19, which is like fascinating. I've been like looking into that every day. I'm like thinking, well, what's going to happen? Like, there's a lot of old people going there. Why are they not getting COVID-19? Is it the community that's like creating the space so that people can also heal better? I'm wonder about that.
Well, that, so that has a couple of different answers. It just depends, because COVID is you have to understand how COVID get contracted. Number one, like I attended a lot of the BLM protests when they happen around George Floyd, and I'm pretty connected to the organizers, and I don't know anyone there that I know. Maybe there are, but that I know that got infected with COVID. Believe it or not, whether we wanted to look cool or whether it was the spirit of the march or whatever, we all wear masks and goggles, because I mean, the first protest, a lot of the protesters got silver bullets. I mean, there are people in hospitals still
Yeah.
for the response by the police, and they got tear gas. So we knew what we were getting ourselves into. So we were all like had masks and goggles, and we were hundreds, and also we were not. I personally didn't see, and at the protest I saw people, together,
Yeah.
but I didn't see anybody hugging or kissing, or doing those things. We were holding signs, we had our masks, we had our goggles. Some people have visors too. I don't think they were very related to COVID. They were more because, like, in case somebody like tease me or something, like I'm prepared.
Yeah.
So that was kind of like a lot of people were like
Yeah.
completely. So let's say that was like the look of the march, right? That's one thing. You know, I have a friend, one of my best friends. He's a doctor, and he works in a hospital. And we have sat and talked about this 100 times. And he always tells me, if I had COVID and if I come and hug you and give you a kiss, that's gonna increase
Yeah.
the chances of you to contract it. So it's also through nasal and
Right.
saliva, basically fluids.
Right.
Not so much like, for example, so I was like, what if you sweat? Like, what are the gyms open? And he was like, all right, you don't really, I mean, you could, but you can't, like if I'm sweating and I so happen to like, get, it's, that doesn't happen that way. So
Has to be a lot more viral load.
exactly. So, or it's like, my mom, for example, she comes home and she cleans her shoes. And I'm like, why are you cleaning your shoes? And she said, because of COVID. And I'm like, well, but unless you're like leaking a shoe that has like COVID, like I don't know how that's gonna happen. So it's like little things. But again, there are a lot of places where you have congregated, and also it just takes one person, and this and it takes that person in a place of incubation. So it's a lot of different
Sure.
factors that need to take place. Not to say that I definitely, personally for me, I feel like from now on, I'm just gonna use the mask. It has helped me incredibly with my allergies.
Mm,
Last year, in the middle of the like pandemic of the century, and I haven't gotten sick not even once with a cold.
mm,
And I really seriously believe it's part of the mask and part is that I'm not like, hi, how are you? And like
right.
hugging people and being in places where there's a lot of like germs and stuff like that that are, hard for your body
Totally.
to to and also, you have your group, you have your pot, whatever, I believe they call them pots. Like you have your, your
About pods.
husband
Yeah.
or your
Yeah.
wife or your group of friends. And if you remain pretty solid in that sense, you can really prevent like COVID from happening.
Right.
The problem is when people kind of come and go from their, from their groups, and they're not being careful,
Sure. Sure. Or share
especially
or
young people, where they
right.
a lot of times get contract COVID, contract COVID, and bring it back to the older people in their homes, and that's when things get a little more complicated.
Definitely. Definitely.
But I
And
had friends that have battled COVID. In fact, one one of my friends got COVID, and a month, literally, as she was getting better, she got pregnant, and she's expecting a baby anytime now.
wow. Amazing. Yeah. I mean, I
So things happen.
I mean,
Like,
I have a cousin, family friends in India who contracted it, and they practice Indian medicine, Ayurveda, and they didn't go to the hospital, and they were older folks, and they got better, really pretty quickly, drinking the soup and doing the hot stuff, and like being in community. So I mean, there's a lot of I even wonder about all that stuff. I wonder like how like all these movements we've had Black Lives Matters, we've had like the anti-mask things, we've had the things in India. I'm not sure we're done with the protests, Auda. Like I mean, I don't know why people are not protesting about not getting a stimulus check. Like just the fact that we're having to like wait to get supported. Like, why should anybody stay at home and be restricted when our government's not? That's like such an easy thing they could do. Like, here's money. All the other major countries in the world are giving their citizens support so they can stay home, right? To stay
yeah,
safe.
yeah,
We don't have
yeah,
that
and
here.
that's the tragedy, that people are going to protest because they don't want to wear a mask, but they're not protesting because they're not getting enough aid. It's something there that is not adding up to me. Like, absolutely. Like, I don't understand why you will be willing to risk your life just to make a statement. You don't want to wear, you stay home, don't wear your mask. No problem. Like, great. In public spaces, you have to wear masks. Like, it's just what it is. But like I said, it's very troublesome that there are more important things. Like, for example, there are people that at the end of this month, if we don't eviction regulations pass, they're going to end up in the streets. And that's really going to be a public health issue. To revise our priorities
Yeah.
and rethink about what's important. Because, I mean, there has been gardeners, babysitters, people that work in restaurants, people that work in CVS, essential workers that have not been able to stay home
Mm-mm.
because their line of work is not a stay home line of work. And they're at risk every day. We've seen this at Trader Joe's, at Costco, all these stores. Like 50 people got COVID, 30 people got COVID.
Yeah.
We yet to figure it out how many people are infected from Amazon, because they have those numbers
They're not
locked down. They
locked
don't want to
down.
really tell. And why aren't we? Yeah, why aren't we protesting for more support from our government? And this stimulus package they is so nebulous.
Mhm.
Yes, $600 for us, for enough money for us is the question here.
Yeah, and we have to. I mean, we have to start reimagining and being involved. I mean, I think that's why I love that you're involved. A more entrepreneurial spirit in the space, more innovative, creative, more compassionate. I think Marianne Williamson kind of brought that to the space. Is how do we also bring compassion to the space? Like, actually, not
Yeah,
just it's not just strategy or analysis, but compassion too, right?
yeah,
Um, But with that being said, let's complete this awesome like podcast with a question, like kind of like a request. How what would you say to anybody listening out there about how they can evoke political hope? Like how can they have more political hope?
It has to start with you. You have to be the change that you want to see. I see many people coming into in the to the movement looking for something. Figure that out. And sometimes these spaces are great to understand your own calling, but show up with your cup full, and not with your cup empty, hoping that everybody feels it. It's dangerous. It brings toxicity to the movement. And how do you fill up the cup? You might be wondering, well, how do I show up? I have a cup. I want to come. Like, what do I do? Self-love, compassion, understanding what are some of the things that you want to see differently, understanding, respect, read about patriarchy, read about white supremacy, and all these systems that have oppressed people of all places, and that's how you start filling up your cup. So when you come, you're not like, but me, which you see that in movements a lot. You get folks that really come and take a lot of space, but instead you can come and we need more of that. We need to show up with this attitude of how can I help? This of my understanding. I have my skills. I know how to make graphics. I'm a very great writer. I know how to put podcasts together because that's what I did in college, for example.
Yeah.
Or, I went to school and I studied policy. I know how to put out a bill. How can I help? Which is a very different attitude that, I'm just here and tell me what to do. We all need to learn from nature and need to learn that resilience is in all of us and resilience is in everything that we do. So that will be my approach, that when you come, especially with so much of the new awakening around inequality and people of color, African Americans, immigrants, Latinos, Latinx, is it's important that you understand a little bit of the history, because for us sometimes it gets very tiring to explain why racism exists, why we want to defund the police, why we want to abolish ICE. Is everybody's job to learn and to understand. So take a book, read a few articles, ask questions, ask your community. I want to better understand how like our economic system works. Who are the players? I don't know who my elected official is. Who can tell me? So get in a rhythm where you show up with your cup full, and then make sure that you learn how to fill up your cup.
Oh my God. Sometimes when my cup is so full, I start falling over. Like it's so, I can't keep myself straight. It's just like falling all over the place.
Totally. And that's great when your cup is like flourishing almost. It's like abundant of things that is like falling apart almost. And then you can do so much more, and like I said, show up in a way that is of help, that is of service.
Yeah. And I want to acknowledge you on that. Is thank you for showing up for your community, for starting as a kid, like as a little kid, how beautiful it was that you started off caring about nature and your community. And here you are. I think this is going to be your life's journey to take care of nature, and nature will take care of you. That's a beautiful part about it is as you serve nature and you continue to make yourself vulnerable. So thank you for vying for council member. Continue to do it. Whatever you do, know that wherever that that you miss it, you're gonna hit it right somewhere else. So keep rolling, and we got your back, and we'll keep sharing and promoting you and doing your thing. Okay.
Eh,
Viva la hora, viva la hora.
Gracias. Well, like I said, my hope is that with these conversations, somebody out there would say, like, you know what, that she said is true. Like, I should do something. And it takes a little step every day. It takes a little step. So, the journey is long. So pace yourselves, and like I said, keep going, keep trying to fill that cap, keep trying to find people that are alike, like-minded, and
Yeah.
we'll get there.
Yeah, and will you leave us with like a quote or like a saying or a poem that you learned in Colombia when you were a kid, or something in terms of service and community or anything? Is there anything beautiful you could leave us with?
Yeah, one thing that I learned, actually, not in Colombia, but while I was organizing the largest march in Washington, D.C. for the environment. This was 4 years ago, actually around this time. And we organized. And one thing that we came up with that has been very profound for me is, to change everything, we need everyone. To change everything, we need everyone. And I say this because sometimes we want to align with people that are just like us. But we need everyone. We need people that don't agree with us. We need people that don't look like us. We need people that look like us. We need everyone. And again, in order to change everything, we must have everybody. Everybody must be in.
Yes. Ah, I love that. It's change everything. We need everyone. I'm game. How do you say that in Spanish? Do you
Para
know how to?
cambiar todos, necesitamos a todos.
Necesitas
Para
a todos.
cambiar todo,
Wow, oh my God.
necesitamos a
I
todos.
can't remember. Oh my God, I gotta like watch your
Para
lips.
cambiar,
Para
to change
cambiar.
everything, para cambiar todo,
Para todo.
necesitamos
Necesitamos
a todos.
a todos. Oh, I
Mhm.
like that. Necesitamos a todos. Ah, thank you so much, Aura. I hope you have a beautiful day. Keep rocking it, and let us know if you need any support. And we're all making some cool. We're all working towards the same goals, so we'll keep winding together. You know.
Absolutely. And I just want to say that now in January, we are, for folks that live in California, we are having elections. They just coming up pretty soon. So if you want to be part of, if you're a Democrat and if you want to be part of shaping policies in the Democratic Party, request your ballot, vote for a delegate that you love and that you care for. I'm running for delegate in Assembly District 50. So if you are in there, Richard Bloom, you can vote for me. And again, this is a good way. This is a very grassroots way to start getting involved. So get involved.
Yeah, awesome. Oh my gosh, I'd definitely vote for you. Have a beautiful one. Take care, okay?
Thank you
Hug,
so much,
hug,
everyone. Thank you.
hug a tree for me, okay? For all of us.
Absolutely. Bye.
Bye. Bye.